Welcome back to Coffee and Conversation. So for all you Audie fans, he's got a beautiful sunny day. It's still very cold, but it's beautiful and sunny. So he's taking advantage and he is sunning himself out on the porch railing. He may want to come back in, and if he does, I will absolutely let him. But right now, he's enjoying a little bit of sunlight. Now, Audie's had a rough time for the last few weeks because we had an uncharacteristic cold snap. Usually, now let me just say, I am in south central Pennsylvania. Usually, even in winter, we only get a few days where the temperature will drop into the teens overnight or won't get out of the 20s during the day. Few days. And then we snap back to daytime temperatures in the 40s and nighttime temperatures in the 30s. And that's usually the pattern we've had, at least for the last 10, 15 years. So Audie's accustomed to those little bits of respite. It will be cold, but then the next day it will be nicer. And he hasn't had that. So now he is enjoying it. And I'm happy for him because he had been rather depressed. You know, my cat, who could not be kept indoors, was refusing to go out, which is unlike him. And that was definitely a sign of kitty depression. So we seem to be past that. I am thrilled. Yellow. Yellow is for Catherine, for Lex's mom, for everyone coping with cancer. We are throwing our very, very best wishes out to all of you. And we are going to follow up on this shirt when we come back from the intro in 22 seconds. So, the shirt. Some of you, particularly those of you who have good memories, might recall I got this shirt, along with several others, about 2 years ago. I got these for $10.80 each. And I got them from a local department store, Kohl's. I don't know if Kohl's is national. I think it is around a lot of places, but probably not spread out through the entire United States, like places like Sears were back in the day. So it came from a decent store, and I got them because it was, $10.80, and it was cotton and linen. So I have a nice cotton linen blend t-shirt. I got 5 of them in different colors. And the reason I got that was the price, basically, and because I was losing weight during this period. Or actually, I think 2 years ago I was attempting to, but hadn't quite gotten there yet. So I knew I would have gaps in my wardrobe that would need quick filling. But ultimately, I would have to say it's fast fashion, in part because of the price. $10 for a shirt, yeah, it's got to be considered fast fashion. But cotton linen blend, I don't know. I tend to think of fast fashion as not just inexpensive in terms of the consumer cost, but inexpensive in terms of the quality. You know, cheap and cheaply made. And these were not cheaply made. So it's only semi-fast fashion. But because we've talked about fast fashion before, and you all know, I started off as an enemy of fast fashion, but all I had to do was just sit down and think about the benefits fast fashion has to offer people who, in other circumstances, might not be able to clothe themselves, clothe their children, even vaguely hope for, the chance at being somewhat fashionable. And I have to say that if these are people who benefit from having decent, fashionable clothing available to them at good prices, who am I to judge? You see, most of the condemnation of fast fashion comes from people who can very easily afford better. I can, but am I going to be going out and buying very expensive clothing when I am in the middle of a weight loss journey, knowing that a lot of those things will not fit me, will have to be donated long before I have gotten my fair share of use out of them? No, that's kind of stupid. So I also have to say that I don't like the judgment implicit in the condemnation of fast fashion, because somebody who goes to Walmart to buy clothing for their children because this is what they can afford should not be made to feel responsible for the entire fast fashion industry. Frankly, these are people who probably do not know where exactly the clothing comes from. Oh, and when I say these people, I don't know where this comes from. I got a boatload of education, more than I'm ever going to use, and I still can't figure out where this comes from. I don't know. I might know where it was assembled. That's all they're required to tell me. I do not know where the fabric was produced, because nobody's required to tell me that. I don't know about things like there's a bit of trim here. I don't know where the trim comes from. The thread, I don't know where the thread comes from. So the fact of the matter is, even though I might consider myself to be a well-informed shopper, I am still wildly ignorant about where most of my clothing comes from. Okay, sweater. This sweater comes from Ireland. It is 100% wool. I do not know where the sheep came from. I don't know. I know it was put together in Ireland. It has buttons here. There's a button. I have no idea where the button came from. And the fact is, I dare say most of us are in exactly the same situation. So, did the button on this sweater come from a sweatshop where they are abusing the labor? I have no idea. I have no idea how I would find out either. So in what way can I be morally responsible for this if it's information that was not available to me? In what way can a person who buys fast fashion from Walmart, even knowing that it may have been made in China or India or somewhere where labor laws are not as strict as they are in other places, how could they be held responsible? So yeah, I guess that's my rant about the judgment tied up in fast fashion, and I don't like it. It's all well and good for a social media influencer who earns $1,000 for every video they post to condemn fast fashion because they have so many more choices. Why would they deny the opportunity to get decent clothing at a good price to people who actually need it? And if they're going to, how are they going to deal with that need that's out there? Are they going to make sure that the single mom buying her clothes at Walmart, that her children are fed and clothed? I don't think so. So yeah, it's just the arrogance of privilege. It is people who can afford options criticizing people who can't. So once I sorted all that out, my tolerance for this just dropped right down into the toilet. Okay, enough about that. Anyway, ultimately, this shirt probably has another summer in it. Maybe. It's definitely starting to look old. And I imagine you can see this. It is not looking nice and new and sparkly the way it once did. And it's probably not looking anywhere near as good as it would if I had gotten a much more expensive alternative. But it served me well, and I'm okay with it. So I did want to just throw that out simply because as soon as I picked this up out of my closet and said, I'm going to wear this because it's yellow, I realized, yeah, it's a fast fashion purchase, so we should probably just quickly address that. Now, I also wanted to pick up on our conversation yesterday. Many of you, as I discovered in the comments, are going through much the same thing. Over-consuming, well, not really consuming, but over-purchasing, and then not consuming. We're buying more than we can use, and we're wasting. So I did have a couple of tricks. I have been thinking about this for quite a while, and yes, my cabinets would not prove that to anyone, because they were certainly stocked with a whole bunch of stuff that I had over-purchased and never used. But there are some other areas in which I have been behaving myself well. So I wanted to share them with you. And let's start with butter. Now, butter will last in your refrigerator for anywhere from 1 to 3 months, they say, before it begins to spoil. In my case, I use unsalted butter. That goes back to my sodium concerns. But unsalted butter has a much shorter shelf life, even refrigerated, than salted butter. And so I'm probably closer to that 1 month end than to the 3 month end of refrigerated butter shelf life. So what I do now is I buy my butter it's the same package. I still get it a pound at a time, exactly the same price. Instead of buying it in 4 8-ounce sticks, I now buy it in 8 4-ounce sticks. I'm buying the same brand of butter I've always purchased. It's Land O'Lakes at exactly the same price I've always bought it for, $5.28, and I looked that up for you this morning. But I am getting it in packaging that conserves the use. So I will get 8 sticks of half-stick butter, take one out, throw the rest in the freezer, and when I've used up that 4 ounces of butter from the fridge, I pull out another one. It has saved me a lot of waste and spoilage, and it has cost me nothing. Zero. Exactly the same price. So that is one that I am sharing with you. If you are in the same situation, just how can you pass it up? Another that I did want to share, because this was pretty apparent in my kitchen shelf photo. The cabinet shows, among other things, a whole stack of shelf-stable milk containers. So I pay about 4 times what I would pay for just a regular gallon of whole milk, pull it out of the dairy case at the supermarket. 4 times as much for these little 8-ounce boxes of milk. I had always lamented the fact that I couldn't go to the store and get the same little 8-ounce milk cartons. You remember them, we used to have them with our school lunches, because I don't use a lot of milk. I'd like to be able to go out, buy one of those, and say, okay, this is my milk. I couldn't do that. Eventually, I found a company that does make shelf-stable milk. My milk will expire in July, so I have plenty of time to use up all the milk that's in my cabinet. And if I don't, oh well, I don't. Yeah, I'm willing to take that loss because of the convenience and the overall cost savings I'm getting from this. Yes, it is 4 times as expensive, ounce per ounce. However, the other side of that was if I had to purchase the milk in the grocery dairy case, even a quart at a time. Now keep in mind, if I buy my milk a quart at a time, I am paying 50% more per ounce than I would pay if I bought it a gallon at a time, but there would be less wastage. Even a quart at a time, given the fact that I rarely use more than a cup of milk, because I only use it for cooking, and in that case, I'm using half a cup or 3/4 of a cup, whatever, usually less than a cup at a time, I would be wasting so much. Even just buying it a quart at a time, I was ordinarily losing at least 3/4 of that quart. Didn't make sense, because in the long run, I was actually paying more for it. And now, even though it's a higher price going into the gate, that upfront cost is higher. My milk in a gallon would be about 3 point something cents, I think 3.6 cents an ounce. The milk that I get from this company, the shelf-stable milk, is about 14 point something cents an ounce. So that milk that I would be paying, 3 point some cents an ounce for if I purchased it in a full gallon, I'm paying 14 point something an ounce for, which is 4 times as much. That's simple. But because I'm not throwing any of it away, I'm actually getting a better buy. Now, this may not be a valuable resource for many of you. It's probably not a valuable resource for most of you. I just don't happen to like the taste of milk. I don't use a lot of it. I am milk for cooking only, but this is one area in which we can do it. So for those of you who are not having issues with milk, just use this as your template for whatever you are having issues with, because there are plenty of things that all of us do buy. We get good prices on it. We throw 3/4 of it away. Maybe we should reconsider and get what we need, not throw as much away, and we'll get a better price in the end. Because, again, it's not just the upfront cost. It's the cost of wastage as well. So I thought I would share those two with you because they have been very useful for me. And as you can see, when I actually look at these issues closely, when I become aware of my craziness, I can, in fact, come up with practical solutions. My problem is a lot of this just really slips under the radar for me. There are a lot of things that are going on that I am just not paying a lot of attention to. So let me also throw out a couple of the other suggestions we got from viewer comments yesterday. People had said in the comments, and it's more than one, had said, do you know you can buy produce, get that good price, and give the leftovers to a food bank? And yeah, I mean, obviously I know that, but I didn't think of it. It didn't occur to me. It's like, I feel like an idiot because, of course, I knew that, but why couldn't I see it? And I'm going to have to look at that. I'm going to have to call my local food bank and find out what they will or will not accept. I used to be able to do things like give the excess milk to one of my neighbors, and then the neighbor moved out of the neighborhood. But she was a milk drinker, which was great for me. I wouldn't just get a quart of milk. I'd go get a gallon. I would use a cup for cooking, bring it across the street, and she was delighted with it. We also have some children that have recently moved into the neighborhood. Maybe I can, go over and talk to them and see if their parents wouldn't mind taking on, a gallon of milk with a cup taken out of it. But because it's in my own neighborhood, I could get it to them almost instantly. It's like literally open the milk, pour a cup, walk across the street, and 3 minutes after that milk has been opened, it's in their kid's glass. So yeah, maybe I could do that. I'm not sure about food banks because then that involves getting to the food bank and things like that. I don't drive. So that is a little more cumbersome for me than it is for most people. And for the rest of my neighbors, most of them are older people, country folk, and they were raised on that Pennsylvania Dutch diet, which is not the way I eat. I'm not even sure what a Pennsylvania Dutch diet is, except it seems to be a lot of dumplings, a lot of chicken, and a more than respectable amount of lard. So, yeah, that's not going on here. If I could persuade them to eat fish with me, we'd be fine. But again, South Central Pennsylvania, fish is not popular around here. So I don't have some of those resources. However, some of you do. Some of you will have neighbors who would be more than happy to take that, buy two, get one free box of blueberries. That's another thing I'm going to have to look at, because I will go into a store, and if I buy 2 boxes of blueberries, they'll give me one free. Well, yeah, very often I will take that 3rd box of blueberries and let it go bad in the fridge, because I never actually wanted 3 of them. I only wanted 1, but it just seems so wasteful to leave those other 2 behind. So this is something that, like I say, it's got limited utility for me simply because I am in a very rural area. I don't have a lot of people around me. I think I've mentioned this before. I am in an area that my township calls a village, and there are 9 houses here. So if I can plug into the food preferences of the 8 surrounding families, I'm okay. Can't always do that. So I'm still actively looking for other options. And at this point, I think the only really sensible option for me is to just only buy what I think I am going to use in a reasonable period of time. Now, I go out to the grocery store at least twice a week. I will probably always do that. I always have done that. That's just the way I shop. And I tend to get a lot of produce, which I think is why I shop twice a week. If you get a lot of fresh produce, once a week usually isn't enough. So I'm going to have to look at this, and I very much welcome your input, because remember, this whole notion of being able to give away my food to a food bank came from you folks. Yes, it was there. Yes, I knew there were food banks. Yes, I knew they accepted donations, but I had not added 1 and 1 and come up with 2. So absolutely, I am looking forward to your input, your comments, and your suggestions, because there may be things we can pass on to others. I've been able to deal with the issue of dairy products. My milk and butter problems are solved. Would I say it's the ideal solution? Not really, because I am paying so much more for the milk. On the other hand, here I will say this in my own defense, that milk in my cabinet will absolutely last until July. And by the way, for those of you who might have concerns about shelf-stable milk, the only thing that makes it different from regular milk is they use something called ultra-high pasteurizing. There we go. And what it is they as they pasteurize it, they cook the milk in order to pasteurize it. You heat it up. And in this process, it is heated up to, I believe it's 280 degrees for a few seconds. Some people say it changes the taste of milk. I don't like the taste of milk anyway, so I wouldn't know if it changed the taste of milk. But people who do like milk have told me there is no appreciable taste difference. And then other people will say there is. I guess everybody has their own taste buds. But that is 100% milk, and it will stay there until July. So I can weigh in the convenience factor, too. I have to buy that milk, and I probably only buy it maybe once a year. And I'm all set. for all of my cooking needs, and it lives on the shelf, and I'm perfectly happy. So it's safe, and it's a good option for me. It might be a good option for some of you, but definitely the short sticks of butter, since it's the same price, why not give it a try? There are other things that are out there. There are certainly things that I am pretty much failing at miserably. Buying 3 packages of blueberries because one of them came free when I only wanted one to begin with. That's kind of stupid, and I have to start working on that. When I cleaned out the cabinet, I left the brown sugar in there. Now, I left the white sugar because somebody might come and want sugar in their coffee. Okay, I'll give myself a little space for that, although I should replace that sugar periodically, but it's only one small package of sugar. It's not a ridiculous expense to, get rid of that and replace it from time to time, just so my guests are not scratching mold off their sugar cubes. But why am I keeping the brown sugar? I also found a sugar substitute, and I don't even know what it is. What I did was, when I put it into a storage jar, I put it into an airtight storage jar, I cut the nutrition label off the package and popped that into, presumably so I would know what it was when I went back, but I never left the name of what it was. So I think it's a sugar substitute, but it's 100% chemical. There is not a scrap of organic material in there. That may well keep forever. So, problem is, it's been in there probably for at least 5 years, and I have not used it once. So I need to throw that away. And as you can see, I'm still working through my own issues. I have got to get better about accepting defeat and throwing this stuff away and not just saving it. Why should I save that? On the theory that it's going to last forever? Well, who cares if I'm not using it? I mean, like, seriously, if I'm never going to use it, why should I be wrapped up in how long it will last? So as you can see, there's a little screw loose I've got. But I'm working my way through this. And of course, I know many of you are as well. And we can share our tips and tricks. And eventually, we are all going to end up getting better at this. So I guess ultimately, that is what I wanted to share with you today. A couple of tricks from the cabinets, a short little rant on fast fashion. Oh, and let me go back to that. One of the reasons I am not sorry I got that batch of shirts is because when I calculate the per wear cost of these items, what did it cost me each time I wore it, I would have to say it was well within my general clothing budget. How much do you allow yourself for your clothing? Well within that. So I can't say I'm sorry about it. This one, I can probably get through the summer on this, mostly because it's going to very quickly go out of that section of my closet for my, wearing out in public stuff, and go over to the gym clothes, the walking clothes, the clothing that I will wear when I'm walking the streets at 5 in the morning and nobody is seeing me. It'll go into that category. But I'm okay with it. I don't feel this was a bad purchase. I think the next time we get together, I'm going to make myself a note so I remember to do this. I should probably talk to you about what the bad purchases were. What are the things I bought that I paid far too much for in the first place, never got anywhere near the appropriate amount of wear out of them, and I totally regret. So let me know in the comments if you want to hear that, because what can I say? I have no problem humiliating myself in public, as you no doubt know. All right, let's take a look at a slideshow on the way out. For those of you who join us for Just Chatting, it will be 8 o'clock this evening. That's New York City time. For the rest of you, looking forward to seeing you again next weekend. Meanwhile, have a terrific day.